Hundreds of workers at Arctic Cat are losing their jobs.
Hitting the community hard. It's been a staple in Thief River Falls since 1962. Arctic Cat builds snowmobiles and all-terrain vehicles, but parent company Textron says sales have slumped.
And the second time, nobody came to save it. If you ever owned a ZR, grew up watching Team Arctic race, you know what I'm talking about. You just never knew exactly how it was set up. By the end of this, you'll know the real reason Arctic Cat's best engine partner walked out after 35 years. You'll hear about the 12 guys with $125,000 who pulled the brand back from nothing, and why that same kind of miracle almost didn't happen the second time. You'll get the honest window of machines from the peak years that are still worth buying right now, and exactly what to check before you hand over a dollar. And I'll tell you who actually owns Arctic Cat today and why it matters. Stay with me. Thief River Falls, Minnesota, 1961. Edgar Hetton just walked away from the company he helped build. The company was Polaris, and the disagreement, depending on who you ask, was about the direction of the business. Edgar wanted to push harder on snowmobiles. The board wasn't convinced. The bank had already made things difficult for him. He left in 1960, and by 1961, he was setting up shop 140 miles up the road in Thief River Falls. Polar Manufacturing, that was the name. The company became Arctic Enterprises in 1962, and the first machine off the line that year was called the Arctic Cat 100, the first front-engined sports sled. Edgar Hetton is the founding father of both brands. The same man who built what became Polaris also built the machine that competed with it for 30 years. There's a certain irony there that the history books gloss over. By 1969, Arctic Enterprises hit $21.7 million in annual sales, a $21 million snowmobile company built by a man who had to start from scratch after getting squeezed out. For a while, things were good, real good. And then the 1970s happened to everyone at once. The oil crisis. 2 snowless winters back to back. Overproduction. We all know about that. By 1981, Arctic Enterprises was drowning in $48.5 million in bank loans, and the banks called them all. Production stopped, doors closed. 1 year short of the company's 20th anniversary, it was over. John Deere looked at buying them. Polaris looked at buying them. Neither one pulled the trigger. During the bankruptcy proceedings, a group of 12 former employees and associates started meeting at a condo in Thief River Falls owned by one of them. They became known as the Condo Crew. Together, they scraped together about $125,000. That's it. That's what they had. They went to the liquidation auction in 1983 and bought back just enough: the brand name, the intellectual property, the rights to build Arctic Cat snowmobiles again. Edgar Hetton was there. The man who started it all came back to watch it either die or get reborn. They incorporated as Artco, Inc. The Cat was back. First production year was 1984. They built less than 3,000 sleds. The Panther and the El Tigre, both essentially 1982 designs that never made production due to the bankruptcy. By 1984 standards, they were already behind. They sold out anyway. Not just sold out, they posted $600,000 in profit from fewer than 3,000 snowmobiles with fewer than 100 employees. And from that moment, Artco started building. By 1990, revenues were $138.8 million. The company went public. That's the comeback. And it only happened because 12 men believed in something a $13 billion conglomerate couldn't be bothered to save. Now wait until you hear about the machine that turned surviving into winning. The 1993 Arctic Cat ZER 440 and ZER 580. Before this machine, Polaris owned the trail. The Indy was everywhere, and Arctic Cat's Prowler-based race sleds couldn't match it. In 1991 and 1992, Team Arctic went winless in terrain racing. On the trails that actual customers cared about, they were getting beaten consistently. So they designed the ZR chassis, double A-arm front suspension, not the trailing arm everyone else was running. Willwood hydraulic brake borrowed from sprint car racing. A Suzuki liquid-cooled twin piston port design breathing through Mikuni carbs. Gun-drilled jack shaft and drive shaft to cut rotational weight while keeping torsional strength. They unveiled the 440 in September 1992. The 580 followed in late November. Kirk Hibbert took one to the I-500 cross-country race that winter, the St. Paul to Thunder Bay event. He won in the first year. Team Arctic then went on to win snowcross, cross-country, and oval events all season long. In one winter, 2 lost years became a decade of racing dominance. The 1994 ZR580, the second most aggressive trail sled Arctic Cat offered that year, behind the ZR700, had Fox shocks, the Willwood brake, suspension geometry honed directly in competition, and a $5,999 dealer price. That works out to roughly $10,100 in today's money. A full race-derived trail sled under 10 grand. Those machines gave Arctic Cat its most competitive decade in the sport. By the mid to late 1990s, Cat was a legitimate threat to Polaris for position in the performance trail segment, pushing the kind of sales numbers that made dealers and the press pay serious attention. This is where the story gets wild, because the thing that made all of this possible was about to walk out the door. Quick pause. If this brand meant something to you growing up, hit that like button. Small channel. It genuinely helps. Keep watching, because the next part is the one everyone gets wrong about Arctic Cat. Since the mid-1970s, Arctic Cat ran Suzuki engines. Not just engines. Suzuki owned a financial stake in Arctic Cat, a seat of board of directors. The Suzuki 580 cubic centimeter twin in the ZR, that's what beat Polaris on the trails. The Suzuki 700 cubic centimeters, the 800 cubic centimeter twin in the ZR 800 era, the 900 cubic centimeter triple in the Thundercat, which Snowtech clocked at around 160 horsepower out of the box from a production trail sled in 1993. Every competitive platform Arctic Cat built from the early 1980s through 2014 ran a Japanese engine out of Hamamatsu. When Cat guys said they buy American, they were riding Minnesota-assembled sleds with Japanese hearts. Not a criticism, just the reality nobody mentioned at the trailhead. In June 2010, Arctic Cat CEO Chris Toomey made an announcement that genuinely shocked the industry. They were ending the Suzuki relationship. After more than 35 years, Arctic Cat would transition to building its own 2-stroke snowmobile engines in St. Cloud, Minnesota, after the 2014 model year. Suzuki would keep supplying parts for existing engines, but the partnership was done. Arctic Cat had built its own ATV engine facility in St. Cloud since 2007, and the lead times and minimum order quantities from Japan were slowing them down. When you're competing against BRP and Polaris for every sale, waiting on a supplier 3,000 miles away creates problems that cost you. Fair enough logic, except for what happened next. In 2011, Suzuki sold its financial stake back to Arctic Cat. The relationship that had partly funded the brand's comeback in 1983 was now completely severed. And Cat's answer for 4-stroke engines? They went to Yamaha, February 2013. Arctic Cat and Yamaha announced a partnership that restructured both companies' snowmobile businesses in one press release. Arctic Cat would buy 4-stroke engines from Yamaha, specifically the 1,049 cubic centimeter Genesis Triple that had been powering the Yamaha Nitro. And Arctic Cat would build Yamaha-branded snowmobiles in its own factory in Thief River Falls. Yamaha got Arctic Cat's ZR chassis and an assembly partner. Arctic Cat got an engine it didn't have to develop from scratch and extra production volume to cover facility costs. The first machines shipped for 2014, the ZR 7000 and the Thundercat 9000 on the Cat side, the Yamaha SR Viper on the Yamaha side, a rebranded Procross chassis with Yamaha's triple and Yamaha graphics. It looked like a win for everyone, except over the following years. Yamaha slowly wound down everything it manufactured in Japan. By 2023, the last 100% Yamaha-built snowmobile came off the line. The entire lineup became Arctic Cat assembly with Yamaha branding. When you're not building the chassis, not building the engine for most models, and not building the sled, what exactly is your snowmobile business? In June 2023, Yamaha gave the industry its answer. After over 50 years in snowmobiling, they announced they were exiting the market entirely by 2025. For Arctic Cat, that meant losing the 4-stroke engine supply agreement that had replaced Suzuki 9 years earlier. 2 engine partners, both gone. 3 decades apart, same result. And wait until you hear who was standing over Arctic Cat when the second one left. Drop a comment right now. Did you ever own a Suzuki-powered Arctic Cat? ZR580, ZR70, 0800? Tell me the model and year. I want to see how many of you had one of those engines in your garage. By 2016, Arctic Cat was struggling. ATV sales were soft across the industry. Too much inventory sitting at dealers. The Wildcat Success had launched in 2012 with strong first-year reviews, then developed a reputation for engine reliability issues and weak differentials that ate into confidence. The company couldn't fund R&D at the scale Polaris and BRP could. Polaris by this point had ATVs, motorcycles, boats, and defense vehicles backing its snowmobile division. Arctic Cat was a snowmobile and ATV company trying to compete against conglomerates. January 25th, 2017. Textron Incorporated out of Providence, Rhode Island announced it was buying Arctic Cat. $247 million in cash, plus assumption of existing debt. Textron's portfolio at the time? Bell Helicopter, Cessna Aircraft, Beechcraft Planes, EasyGo Golf Carts, Cushman Utility Vehicles, Jacobson Lawnmowers, and Military Systems. That's the company that bought the brand the Condo crew rebuilt with $125,000. The board approved it unanimously. At $18.50 per share, it represented a 40.7% premium over where Arctic Cat stock was sitting 5 days earlier. When your stock is that far underwater from where it needs to be, a 40% premium looks like rescue. Sure, but Textron actually wanted to grow its Textron Specialized Vehicles division, not to make better snowmobiles, to fill out a product portfolio that also included golf carts and airport ground support equipment. Let that sink in. Within months of closing the deal, Textron announced it was stripping the Arctic Cat name off all ATVs and side-by-sides. Machines that had carried the Arctic Cat identity for 2 decades would now be called Textron Off-Road. Dealers who had built their businesses on the Cat brand suddenly had to explain to customers why the logo on half their inventory said something different. We all know Textron reversed the decision 2 years later in 2019, bringing the Arctic Cat name back to ATVs. But come on guys, the damage to dealer confidence was already done. You don't undo that kind of confusion with a press release. I will be fair to Textron for a moment. They invested real money into Arctic Cat after the acquisition. The new Catalyst chassis, which launched for 2023, was a legitimate engineering refresh. First genuinely new platform in over a decade. Lighter, better geometry. Arctic Cat was building Yamaha sleds in Thief River Falls right up until Yamaha's exit. That facility kept people employed and gave Arctic Cat the production volume it couldn't generate on its own sales alone. And when Yamaha left in 2025, Arctic Cat suddenly had an expensive factory running at significantly lower capacity. So they reduced the workforce, sadly. 65 workers gone immediately. Then, another 385 layoffs coming in May 2025. The St. Cloud engine facility affected too. Thief River Falls had been building Arctic Cat snowmobiles since 1962. 63 years. And a company whose main businesses are aircraft and defense was exploring strategic alternatives for the brand. I almost feel bad for a moment. The Catalyst chassis had just launched. Engineers who cared about snowmobiling had just delivered a genuinely new platform. And the company that owned them was putting the whole operation up for sale. Build something great, then get sold to someone who doesn't understand what they're holding. That's the cycle Arctic Cat has lived twice now, and this time there was no condo crew meeting at anyone's apartment. April 23rd, 2025. The sale closes. Textron sold Arctic Cat to Brad Darling, the same VP who had walked out in 2016, and a private investment group, announced publicly on April 24th. Terms weren't disclosed. Darling, still the president of Argo, will run both companies separately. The same investment group that backs Argo is also involved here. Darling spent 17 years at Arctic Cat, the last 5 as VP of the Snow Division. He knows the product, he knows the people, he knows where the bodies are buried. With him came the good news of Arctic Cat resuming production at both the Thief River Falls and St. Cloud plants, hiring back nearly 500 employees between both sites. The plant that Textron was shutting down was reopening. Then, January 7th, 2026, Arctic Cat announced it acquired Widescape, a Quebec-based company that builds stand-up enduro snowmobiles, a completely different category than anything Arctic Cat has made before. That's 2 meaningful moves in less than 9 months. Is it enough? What do you think? The dealer network has had a rough 8 years. The snowmobile market overall has been contracting since the industry peaked in the 1990s. But I'll say this, the first time Arctic Cat came back, 12 guys with $125,000 and no guarantee of anything built it into a $484 million company. The second time, the guy who left because he could see what was coming bought it back when the people who didn't understand it were done with it. And within months, he was hiring and expanding. That's either the start of something real or the best last chapter this brand will ever get. You can argue it either way. If you've been thinking about picking up an Arctic Cat from the real era, here's what's worth your time and money. The 1993 to 1996 ZR580 carbureted platform is the standard to find. The 580 cubic centimeter Suzuki piston port twin in the early ZR chassis, specifically the pre-EFI versions through 1996, are fully serviceable with a factory manual, a set of Mikuni jets, and a Sunday afternoon. A clean running model is trading right now in the $2,500 to $4,500 range, depending on condition, location, and history. Next, the 1997 ZR580 EFI, the green one with the checkered flags, was the first batteryless EFI production snowmobile. The batteryless EFI system is genuinely clever. First pull of the recoil generates current that pressurizes the fuel rail. Clean and relatively simple by EFI standards. Stators are a documented weak point on this model. Ask to see service records before you buy. Before you commit to anything, pull a cold compression test. Both cylinders. You're looking for at least 120 psi each, with both sides within 10% of each other. The Suzuki twin is durable, but it tells the truth on a compression gauge. Don't skip this step. Check the tunnel and bulkhead for cracks near the front torque arm attachment points. This is a documented wear area on ZR platforms. Fixable, but it tells you how hard the sled was ridden. Get the factory service manual before you negotiate the price, not the owner's manual. The full technical document with torque specs, jetting charts calibrated by altitude, and exploded diagrams. Arctic Chat and Arctic Insider both maintain resource sections with these as free downloads. If you can't find a service manual for the specific model you're considering, think twice. Your Arctic Cat dealer still exists in a lot of towns, and the people running those dealerships often know the brand better than anyone Textron sent from Augusta, Georgia. If Darlings Group gets this right, that relationship gets better. Talk to them. Buy from them when you can. They're the reason the brand survived the Textron years with any product at all. I want to ask you guys 2 questions. 1, what's the Arctic Cat model that meant the most to you? Not the first one you rode, the one you'd have back tomorrow if the right example showed up at the right price, year, model, color, if you remember it. 2, do you think Brad Darling's group can actually turn this thing around? Or is the window already gone? I want both in the comments. If this is the kind of honest content you're looking for, hit subscribe, like, small channel. Every single subscriber matters to me. Check out the next video right here.